There are specialty shops out there illegally removing emissions equipment from the brand new trucks. Do I agree with this? Let me explain my position. I live in a small town that's fairly remote up north, and a lot of the reason I live here is because I really love the trees, the clean water, and the fresh air. I'm a bit of a tree hugger. I do not like pollution. But having said that, I honestly have to say that I think these emissions regulations, much like the ELD regulations, have been rushed through without taking the time and the thought by the politicians as to the practical application of these rules and regulations. I think these emissions regs were rushed through the system way too quickly. Look at Caterpillar and Volkswagen, two of the biggest engine manufacturers in the world. Neither one of these guys, with all the money in the world, could make these systems work. Caterpillar gave up in 2009 and retired from the engine business as far as big trucks were concerned. Volkswagen set up a whole system so they could cheat the system because they didn't have the time and the technology developed yet to be able to master what CARB and the EPA wanted in the cars. The technology and the engineering just hadn't caught up to the mandates from the government. The government can mandate the trucks run on chicken soup if they want, but it doesn't mean that the engineers can make it work. Now, how did the trucking community handle this problem? The mega carriers simply bought extra trucks, and frankly, they had extra trucks sitting anyway because of their driver shortage. So when one quit because of a DEF problem or an emissions problem, they just tow it back to the shop and send out another one and just rotate the ones that were still running from the ones that were breaking down. However, 80% of trucking in North America is done by small companies, small fleets, and owner-operators. And these guys just can't afford to have spare trucks lying around in case their principal truck breaks. For the last 10 years, the freight rates have been way too low. The rates have been way too low. Guys are struggling to survive as it is without the added cost of this DEF equipment, plus the breakdowns, plus the loss of loads, the maintenance costs. You can go on and on. The trucking industry simply couldn't afford this mandate at this time, but you know what? The government pushed it through anyway. Look at the financial devastation that the EPA and CARB have caused in the state of California alone. Small trucking companies that never had to buy new equipment because there's no salt out there, so they could just keep rebuilding their older equipment. And their financial structure was based on that, not having to buy new equipment that didn't run. It's devastated California as far as their local trucking industries are concerned. So to answer the question, yes, I'm all in favor of these emission shops removing emissions equipment from the trucks until they can master the technology to make the systems work properly. And they've got a ways to go yet. I know they're getting there and the things are getting better, but they've still got a long way to go. And what works in California doesn't necessarily work in cold climates. The DEF fluid freezes up, the low emissions diesel turns to jello. So we've got some issues here with this stuff. So in the meantime, trucks and the trucking industry has to survive financially. 80% of our freight moves on trucks as well. So, the politicians can mandate whatever they want, but hopefully they won't mandate us to death until the economy grinds to a halt because the trucks can't move and get the food to the shelves. And you'd think that the politicians would take a step back, have a look at the situation, and ease off on the regulations a little. But instead they've chosen to shoot themselves and us in the foot in the meantime to hold us to the fire for these regulations. I'm in favor of removing the equipment until they can make the trucks work properly again. But you know what? Maybe I'm missing the whole big point here. Maybe they knew all along the engines wouldn't run properly. They listened to Caterpillar and Volkswagen, and maybe they knew that these things weren't just going to run. And if these engines aren't running, I guess they're not polluting. So maybe there's a bigger picture here. We should check to see if Elon Musk is sitting on the board of the EPA. Maybe we're all waiting for electric trucks because the DEF trucks won't run. Truckers have always been fighters by nature. We've had to be to survive. So this emissions equipment stuff, that's just one more fight for us. And we'll win it. Let's hope the economy doesn't grind to a halt in the meantime. Keep your DEF tanks topped up, try to keep your new engines running, and I will see you on the backhaul.